The leather-bound diary felt heavy in my hands, its pages filled with secrets I was never meant to know. I stood frozen in Mary's pristine guest room, my heart pounding as I read the words scrawled in her elegant handwriting. "That insufferable Anna," the entry began. "How Daniel could have chosen her is beyond me. She'll never be good enough for this family." I slammed the book shut, my hands trembling. How long had my mother-in-law harbored such resentment towards me? And more importantly, what was I going to do about it? The sound of a car pulling into the driveway jolted me back to reality. I quickly shoved the diary back into the drawer where I'd found it and rushed downstairs, plastering on a smile as Daniel walked through the door. "Hey, honey," he said, giving me a quick peck on the cheek. "How was your day with Mom?" I hesitated, the weight of my discovery pressing down on me. "Oh, you know, the usual." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "That bad, huh?" Before I could respond, Mary's voice rang out from the kitchen. "Daniel, darling, is that you?" She bustled into the room, all smiles and warmth for her son. The contrast between her demeanor now and the vitriol I just read in her diary made my head spin. "Anna, be a dear and set the table, would you?" Mary said, barely sparing me a glance. I gritted my teeth. "Of course, Mary." As I laid out the plates and silverware, I could hear Mary and Daniel chatting animatedly in the kitchen. My mind raced, trying to process what I'd learned. How could I confront her without seeming like I'd invaded her privacy? And would Daniel even believe me if I told him? "Anna." Mary's sharp voice cut through my thoughts. "We're ready to eat. Do try to keep up, dear." I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was sure to be an uncomfortable dinner. As we sat down, Mary launched into a story about her bridge club, completely ignoring my presence. "Oh, and Daniel," she said, her eyes sparkling, "I ran into Olivia at the supermarket today. She and Liam are coming over for brunch on Sunday. Isn't that lovely?" Daniel nodded, his mouth full of pot roast. I felt a familiar pang of jealousy at the mention of my sister-in-law. Olivia could do no wrong in Mary's eyes, a fact that was driven home by what I'd read in the diary. "That sounds great, Mom," Daniel said. "Anna and I would love to join you." Mary's smile faltered for just a moment. "Oh, I'm not sure there will be enough room at the table. Perhaps Anna could visit her own family that day." The room fell silent. I stared at my plate, willing myself not to cry or scream. Daniel cleared his throat. "Mom, that's not fair. Anna is part of this family, too." Of course," Mary backpedaled smoothly. "I just thought she might prefer to spend time with her parents. You know how close they are." I couldn't take it anymore. "Actually, Mary," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "I'd love to join you for brunch. After all, we're family, right?" The look she gave me could have curdled milk. "Of course, dear. How thoughtful of you." As the tension in the room reached a breaking point, Samuel, my father-in-law, walked in, oblivious to the drama unfolding. "Sorry I'm late, everyone," he said cheerfully. "What did I miss?" I caught Mary's eye across the table, and in that moment I knew. This was war, and I wasn't going down without a fight. The diary may have been the first shot fired, but it certainly wouldn't be the last. As we finished dinner in strained silence, I made a decision. I would find a way to expose Mary's true nature, no matter what it took. The question was, how far was I willing to go to protect my place in this family? Sunday morning arrived with a knot of dread in my stomach. I stood in front of the mirror, smoothing down my dress and wondering if it was too much for a simple family brunch. But with Mary, nothing was ever simple. "You look beautiful," Daniel said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "Ready to go?" I forced a smile. "As I'll ever be." The drive to Mary and Samuel's house was tense, filled with my unspoken worries about the diary and Daniel's oblivious chatter about work. As we pulled into the driveway, I spotted Liam's car already parked. "Looks like we're the last to arrive," I muttered. Daniel squeezed my hand. "It'll be fine, Anna. Just relax." If only he knew. The moment we stepped through the door, Mary descended upon us like a perfectly coiffed vulture. "Daniel, darling," she exclaimed, enveloping him in a hug. Her eyes slid past me as if I were invisible. Come in. Olivia's just made the most delightful quiche." I trailed behind them into the dining room, where Liam and Olivia were already seated. Olivia stood up, her pregnancy bump now clearly visible beneath her flowing top. "Anna," she said, hugging me warmly, "it's so good to see you." For a moment, I felt a flicker of genuine affection. Then I caught Mary's expression. a mixture of adoration for Olivia and thinly veiled contempt for me. "Olivia, dear," Mary cooed, "you simply must tell Anna your wonderful news." Olivia beamed. "We're having twins! Can you believe it?" The room erupted in excited chatter, but I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Twins, of course, because Olivia wasn't just perfect, she was doubly perfect. "That's amazing," I managed to choke out. As we sat down to eat, the conversation revolved entirely around Olivia's pregnancy. I pushed my food around my plate, feeling increasingly invisible. "Anna," Mary's sharp voice cut through my thoughts, "you're awfully quiet. Nothing to contribute?" I looked up to find everyone staring at me. I'm just happy for Liam and Olivia," I said weakly. Mary's smile was razor thin. "Of course you are, dear. It must be difficult, though, watching someone else live out your dreams." The table fell silent. Daniel shifted uncomfortably beside me. "Mom," he started, but I cut him off. "What exactly do you mean by that, Mary?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. She waved a hand dismissively. "Oh, nothing, dear. It's just that some women are natural mothers, while others, well, perhaps it's for the best that nature takes its course." The room spun. I gripped the edge of the table, fighting back tears of rage and humiliation. "Mary," Samuel said warningly, but she ignored him. "I only mean that Olivia has such a maternal instinct," Mary continued, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "It's clear she was born for this role, unlike some people who might struggle with the demands of motherhood." That was it, the last straw. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. "Anna?" Daniel looked up at me, confused. "I need some air," I muttered, fleeing the room. I found myself in Mary's study, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the drawer where I'd found the diary. I needed proof, something to show Daniel that his mother wasn't the saint he thought she was. "What are you doing?" I whirled around to find Olivia standing in the doorway, her eyes wide with concern. I started, but the words caught in my throat. Olivia stepped into the room, closing the door behind her. "Anna, there's something you need to know," she said quietly. "About Mary. About all of us." My heart pounded. Was this it? The moment when everything would finally come to light? "What is it?" I whispered. Olivia took a deep breath. "Mary isn't who you think she is, and neither am I." My mind reeled from Olivia's revelation. Before I could press her for more details, a sharp knock on the study door made us both jump. "Anna? Olivia? Are you in there?" It was Daniel's voice, tinged with concern. Olivia shot me a panicked look. "We'll talk later," she whispered, then called out, "Coming, Daniel." As we rejoined the others, my thoughts were a jumbled mess. What did Olivia mean? And how was I going to confront Daniel about the diary? The rest of brunch passed in a blur. I barely tasted the food, my mind racing with possibilities. As we said our goodbyes, Mary's saccharine smile made my skin crawl. "Do come again soon, dears," she cooed, kissing Daniel's cheek. Her eyes met mine, cold and challenging. "We have so much to catch up on." The drive home was silent, tension thick in the air. Finally, as we pulled into our driveway, I couldn't hold it in any longer. "Daniel, we need to talk about your mother." He sighed, turning off the engine. "Anna, please, not this again." "No, you need to listen to me," I insisted, my voice rising. "I found something when we were at your parents' swept house last week, your mother's diary." Daniel's face darkened. "You went through her personal things?" "It was an accident," I said quickly. "But Daniel, the things she wrote about me, she hates me. She always has." He shook his head, disbelief etched across his features. "That's ridiculous. My mother loves you. She's always been nothing but kind to you." I laughed bitterly. "Kind? Did you not hear what she said at brunch today about me not being cut out for motherhood?" "She didn't mean it like that," Daniel said, but I could see the doubt creeping into his eyes. "She did, Daniel, and there's more, so much more." I took a deep breath. "Your mother, she's not who you think she is." Daniel's jaw clenched. "What are you talking about?" "I can't explain it all right now, but Olivia knows something too. She tried to tell me today, but we were interrupted." "This is insane," Daniel muttered, running a hand through his hair. "You're reading too much into things, Anna. My mother would never—" "Never what?" I snapped. "Lie? Manipulate? Open your eyes, Daniel. She's been doing it for years." He got out of the car abruptly, slamming the door behind him. I scrambled to follow him into the house. "Daniel, please," I begged, grabbing his arm. "Just listen to me." He whirled around, his eyes flashing with anger. No, you listen to me, Anna. I've had enough of this. My mother has been nothing but welcoming to you since the day we met. If anyone's causing problems in this family, it's you." His words hit me like a physical blow. I staggered back, tears welling in my eyes. "You don't mean that," I whispered. Daniel's expression softened slightly, but the anger was still there. "I'm going for a walk. I need to clear my head." As the front door slammed behind him, I sank to the floor, sobs racking my body. How had everything gone so wrong? My phone buzzed in my pocket. With shaking hands, I pulled it out to see a text from an unknown number. "Anna, it's Olivia. We need to meet. Alone. There's so much you don't know. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., at the coffee shop on Main Street. Please come. It's about Mary and Daniel." I stared at the message, my heart pounding. Whatever Olivia knew, it was clear that this went deeper than I could have imagined. As I heard Daniel's key in the lock, I quickly deleted the message. He walked in, his face a mask of exhaustion and conflicting emotions. "Anna, it's okay," I cut him off, forcing a smile. "Let's just forget about it for now." But as we went through the motions of a normal evening, I knew that nothing would ever be the same. Tomorrow, I would meet Olivia and finally uncover the truth. And then, one way or another, this family would never be the same again. The coffee shop bustled with afternoon patrons as I scanned the room for Olivia. My hands shook slightly, clutching my phone with Daniel's latest text. "Where are you? Mom's trying to reach you about Dad's retirement party." I spotted Olivia in a corner booth, her face pale and drawn. As I slid in across from her, she glanced nervously around the room. "Anna, thank you for coming," she whispered. "I don't have much time. Mary thinks I'm at a doctor's appointment." "Olivia, what's going on? What do you know about Mary and Daniel?" She took a deep breath. "Mary isn't Daniel's biological mother. She adopted him when he was a baby. His real mother was Mary's sister." The world tilted on its axis. I gripped the edge of the table, struggling to process this bombshell. "But how? Why doesn't Daniel know?" Olivia's eyes welled with tears. "Mary swore everyone to secrecy. She was desperate for a child, and when her sister got pregnant out of wedlock, it was the perfect solution. But Mary's obsession with being the perfect mother has turned into this." My mind raced. "Does Liam know?" She nodded. "He found out just before we got married. Mary made him promise never to tell. It's been eating him alive. And you're telling me this now because I can't stand by and watch Mary destroy your marriage like she almost destroyed mine," Olivia said fiercely. "She's planning something, Anna, something big." Just then my phone buzzed. It was Mary. "Anna, dear," her saccharine voice dripped through the speaker. "I hope you're free this Saturday at 7 p.m. for Samuel's retirement party. We're so looking forward to seeing you and Daniel." I froze, remembering the invitation I'd seen on Daniel's desk. I thought, "Isn't the party at 5? Mary's laugh was like ice. "Oh no, dear, it's definitely at 7. I wouldn't want you to show up at the wrong time and embarrass yourself. See you then." The call ended abruptly. I looked at Olivia, horror dawning on my face. "She's setting me up," I whispered. Olivia nodded grimly. "Anna, you need to tell Daniel the truth, about everything." "He won't believe me," I said, despair creeping in. "He thinks I'm the one causing problems." "Then make him believe you," Olivia urged. "Find proof, the diary, adoption papers, anything. You have to fight back." As we left the coffee shop, my mind was a whirlwind of emotions and half-formed plans. I had to find a way to expose Mary's lies without destroying Daniel in the process. At home, I paced our bedroom, debating my next move. The sound of the front door opening made me jump. "Anna?" Daniel called out. "Are you home?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself. It was now or never. "Up here," I replied, my voice surprisingly steady. Daniel appeared in the doorway, his face a mix of concern and lingering frustration from our earlier argument. "Where were you?" "Mom's been trying to reach you about Dad's party." I met his gaze, my heart pounding. "Daniel, we need to talk. There's something you need to know about your mother." His expression hardened. "Anna, I thought we were past this." "Please," I begged. "Just hear me out. What I'm about to tell you will change everything, but you need to know the truth." Daniel's eyes searched my face, conflict evident in his features. Finally, he sat down on the edge of the bed. "All right," he said quietly. "I'm listening." I took a deep breath, knowing that the words I was about to speak would shatter the foundation of everything he believed. But as I opened my mouth to reveal Mary's decades-long deception, I realized there was no turning back. The truth, no matter how painful, had to come out. "Daniel," I began, my voice barely above a whisper, "your mother, she's not who you think she is." My heart raced as Daniel and I pulled up to his parents' house. The driveway was already packed with cars, laughter and music spilling out into the evening air. I glanced at my watch, 7:05 p.m. "We're right on time," Daniel said, squeezing my hand. "Ready?" I nodded, trying to quell the nausea rising in my throat. After our conversation about Mary's true nature, Daniel had been quiet and withdrawn. He'd insisted on coming to the party, saying he needed time to process everything. I couldn't shake the feeling that this night would end in disaster. As we approached the front door, it swung open to reveal Mary, resplendent in a glittering evening gown. "Daniel, darling," she exclaimed, pulling him into a hug. Her eyes met mine over his shoulder, cold and triumphant. "And Anna, how lovely of you to join us, eventually." I froze, confusion washing over me. "What do you mean? You told me the party started at 7. Mary's laugh tinkled like broken glass. "Oh, you poor dear, the party started at 5, as stated on the invitation. Didn't Daniel tell you?" I turned to Daniel, who looked bewildered. I thought I mentioned it," he stammered. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Mary had set me up, just as Olivia had warned. And Daniel, despite everything I'd told him, had fallen right into her trap. We entered the crowded living room where all eyes turned to us. Samuel, the guest of honor, approached with a warm smile. "There you are," he said. "We were starting to worry. Anna, dear, I'm afraid we've run out of chairs. Would you mind terribly if Daniel sat here and you found a spot in the kitchen?" I stood there, humiliation burning through me, as I watched Daniel sink into the last available seat. Mary's smug smile from across the room made my blood boil. "Actually," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "I think I'll just stand. Wouldn't want to miss any more of the party than I already have." A ripple of uncomfortable laughter went through the room. I caught Olivia's eye, and she gave me a small, encouraging nod. As the night wore on, I found myself pushed further and further to the periphery. Mary held court, regaling everyone with stories of Daniel's childhood and her own sacrifices as a mother. Each anecdote felt like a dagger, knowing the truth behind her facade. Finally, as Mary launched into yet another tale of her maternal devotion, something in me snapped. "That's enough," I said, my voice cutting through the chatter. The room fell silent. Mary turned to me, her eyes narrowing. "I beg your pardon." "I said, that's enough," I repeated, stepping forward. "Enough lies, enough manipulation, enough of this whole charade." Daniel stood up, his face pale. "Anna, what are you doing?" I met his gaze, silently pleading with him to understand. Then I turned to face the room full of shocked faces. "There's something you all need to know," I began, my heart pounding. "Mary isn't." Suddenly, Olivia gasped and clutched her stomach. "The babies," she moaned. "Something's wrong." The room erupted into chaos. As Liam rushed to Olivia's side and someone called for an ambulance, I felt a hand grip my arm. It was Mary, her fingers digging into my skin. "You think you've won?" she hissed. "This isn't over. Not by a long shot. If you breathe a word of what you know, I'll make sure you regret it for the rest of your life." As she released me, I caught sight of Daniel watching us, his expression unreadable. In that moment, I knew I had a choice to make. I could back down, let Mary continue her reign of manipulation and lies, or I could take a stand, right here and now, and finally expose the truth, no matter the consequences. With Olivia being rushed to the hospital and the party in shambles, I took a deep breath. It was now or never. "I'm sorry, Mary," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "but I can't keep quiet any longer. It's time everyone knew the truth about who you really are." The room fell silent, all eyes fixed on me. Mary's face contorted with rage, while Daniel looked torn between confusion and betrayal. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "I found Mary's diary," I began, my voice shaking. "And what I read, it changes everything." Mary lunged forward, her hand outstretched as if to snatch the words from the air. "Anna, stop this nonsense immediately." But I was beyond stopping now. The truth burned in my chest, demanding to be set free. "Mary isn't Daniel's biological mother," I blurted out. "She adopted him as a baby. His real mother was Mary's sister." The room erupted into chaos. Samuel staggered back, his face ashen. Liam, who had been about to follow the ambulance with Olivia, froze in the doorway. And Daniel looked as if his entire world had shattered. "You're lying," he whispered, his eyes pleading with me to take it back. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. "I'm so sorry, Daniel. I wish it wasn't true. But Olivia confirmed it. Your mother has been lying to you your entire life." Mary's scream of rage cut through the commotion. "How dare you!" she shrieked, lunging at me. Daniel caught her arm, holding her back. "Mom," he said, his voice breaking, "is it true?" For a moment, Mary's mask slipped and I saw the desperation in her eyes. Then, just as quickly, it was gone, replaced by cold fury. "Of course not," she spat. "Anna is clearly delusional. She's been trying to turn you against me from the beginning. Can't you see that?" I watched as doubt crept into Daniel's eyes. My heart sank. After everything, was he still going to choose his mother over the truth? "Daniel," I pleaded, "think about it. The diary, the way she's always treated me, the secrets, it all makes sense now." He looked between us, torn. The room held its breath, waiting. Suddenly, Samuel stepped forward. "It's true," he said quietly. "I'm sorry, son. We should have told you long ago." Mary whirled on him. "Samuel, how could you?" "Enough, Mary," he said firmly. "It's time the truth came out." As the full weight of the revelation settled over the room, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. The truth was finally out, but at what cost? Daniel stumbled back, his face a mask of pain and betrayal. I need to get out of here," he muttered, pushing past me towards the door. "Daniel, wait!" I called, but he was already gone, the sound of tires screeching in the driveway. I turned back to face Mary, who stood glaring at me with pure hatred. "Are you happy now?" she hissed. "You've destroyed this family." "No, Mary," I replied, finding strength I didn't know I had. "You did that all on your own." As I moved to follow Daniel, Mary's hand shot out, gripping my arm with surprising strength. "This isn't over," she snarled. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." I wrenched my arm free, my heart pounding. "Neither do you," I shot back. Rushing out into the night, I frantically scanned the street for any sign of Daniel's car. But he was gone. My phone buzzed, a text from Olivia. "At hospital. Twins okay. False alarm. What happened?" I stared at the screen, the enormity of the night's events crashing over me. In the span of an hour, I had exposed a decades-old family secret, potentially ruined my marriage, and made an enemy of one of the most manipulative women I'd ever met. As I stood there, alone in the dark, I realized that this was far from over. Mary's threat echoed in my mind, and I knew that the real battle was just beginning. But for the first time in years, I felt ready to fight. I took a deep breath and started walking. I had a husband to find, a family to mend, and a truth to defend. Whatever came next, I would face it head on. I found Daniel at our spot by the lake, his silhouette a lonely figure against the moonlit water. As I approached, the crunch of gravel under my feet made him turn. "Anna," he said, his voice hollow, "how did you find me?" "I know you," I replied softly. "I've always known you." He laughed bitterly. "Have you? Because I don't even know myself anymore." I reached for his hand, but he pulled away. The rejection stung, but I pressed on. "Daniel, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I just couldn't bear the lies anymore." "And what about your lies?" he snapped. "You went behind my back, dug through my mother's personal things. How are you any better?" His words hit me like a physical blow. Before I could respond, headlights swept across us. Mary's car screeched to a halt, and she burst out, Samuel close behind. "Daniel!" she cried. "Oh, my darling boy, don't listen to her poisonous lies." Daniel's face contorted with pain. "Is it true?" he demanded. "Are you really not my mother?" Mary's eyes darted between us, calculating. "Of course I'm your mother. I raised you, loved you. That's what being a mother is." "But you didn't give birth to me," Daniel pressed. "Did you?" The silence stretched, taut as a wire about to snap. Then, unexpectedly, another voice cut through the night. "She didn't," Olivia said, stepping out of Liam's car. Despite her ordeal at the hospital, she stood tall, her eyes blazing. "But I can prove who did." Mary lunged at Olivia. "You treacherous little—" "Enough!" Samuel's voice boomed across the lakeside. "Mary, it's over. The truth is out." As if summoned by his words, a police car pulled up, its lights flashing. 2 officers stepped out, their faces grim. "Mary Anderson?" one asked. "We have some questions about the adoption of Daniel Anderson and the death of your sister, Sarah Mitchell." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Death? Adoption? I looked at Daniel, seeing my own shock mirrored in his eyes. Mary's composure cracked. "You don't understand," she pleaded. "Sarah was going to ruin everything. She was going to take Daniel away. I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't." As the officers led Mary away, her desperate confessions echoing in the night, I felt Daniel sag against me. I wrapped my arms around him, feeling his body shake with silent sobs. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry." Olivia approached us, her face etched with guilt and sorrow. "Daniel, Anna, there's more you need to know, about your real mother, about what really happened." For a moment I thought Daniel might break completely. But then he straightened, wiping his eyes. "Tell me everything," he said. As Olivia began to speak, unraveling decades of lies and secrets, I felt a strange mix of horror and relief wash over me. The truth was finally coming to light, but at what cost? I looked around at our fractured family. Samuel, slumped and defeated, Liam holding Olivia protectively, Daniel clinging to my hand like a lifeline. And in the distance, the police car carrying Mary away, 30 years of deception finally catching up with her. In that moment, standing on the shore of the lake where Daniel and I had shared so many happy memories, I realized that nothing would ever be the same. We had weathered the storm of Mary's lies, but the aftermath threatened to tear us apart. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, I made a silent vow. Whatever came next, whatever truths were yet to be revealed, I would stand by Daniel. We would face it together, and somehow, someway, we would find a way to rebuild from the ashes of the life we once knew. The real test, I realized, was only just beginning. The courtroom was silent as we awaited the verdict. Daniel's hand gripped mine tightly, his knuckles white with tension. Across the aisle, Mary sat alone, a shadow of the formidable woman she once was. As the judge began to speak, I felt the weight of the past months pressing down on me. The grueling investigation, the painful revelations about Sarah's death, the fractures in our family that seemed impossible to mend. But through it all, Daniel and I had stood together, stronger than ever. In the case of the state versus Mary Anderson, on the charge of involuntary manslaughter, we find the defendant guilty. A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. I turned to Daniel, seeing a mix of relief and sorrow in his eyes. Mary's shoulders slumped, defeat etched into every line of her face. As the judge continued with the sentencing, I found my mind drifting to the journey that had brought us here. The diary that started it all seemed like a lifetime ago. Now, we were facing a future I never could have imagined. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady as he addressed the cameras. "Today, justice has been served," he said. "But there are no winners here. Only a family forever changed by secrets and lies. We ask for privacy as we begin to heal." As we pushed through the crowd, I caught sight of Samuel, standing apart from the chaos. Our eyes met, and I saw a lifetime of regret in his gaze. Daniel noticed too, hesitating for a moment before approaching his father. "Dad," he said softly, "would you like to come home with us?" Samuel's eyes welled with tears. "You'd want me there, after everything?" Daniel nodded. "You're still my father. We have a lot to work through, but we're family." The drive home was quiet, each of us lost in our thoughts. As we pulled into the driveway, I was surprised to see Liam and Olivia waiting on the porch, the twins asleep in their stroller. "We thought you might need some family around," Olivia said, embracing me tightly. Inside, as Samuel settled into an armchair and Liam helped Daniel open a bottle of wine, I found myself in the kitchen with Olivia. "I never thanked you," I said quietly, "for telling the truth, for standing by us through all of this." Olivia squeezed my hand. It was long overdue. I just wish I'd had the courage to speak up sooner. As we rejoined the others, I was struck by the scene before me. This patchwork family, battered and bruised, but still standing, still trying. Daniel raised his glass. "To truth," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "and to new beginnings." As we clinked glasses, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in years, I felt hope. Later that night, as Daniel and I lay in bed, he turned to me, his eyes shining in the darkness. "Anna," he whispered, "I don't think I ever properly thanked you for fighting for the truth, for fighting for us. I'm sorry I ever doubted you." I cupped his face in my hands. "We fought together, Daniel, and we'll keep fighting together, whatever comes next." He pulled me close, and as I drifted off to sleep in his arms, I realized that this was what I'd been searching for all along. Not the approval of a woman who could never truly love me, but the unshakable bond of a partnership built on trust and truth. Mary's reign of manipulation was over. In its place, we were building something new, something stronger. A family forged in fire, tempered by truth. As the first light of dawn crept through our window, I smiled. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I was ready to face them. With Daniel by my side and the truth as our compass, we could weather any storm. The future, for the first time in years, looked bright.